Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. On this channel we talk about all things positive in your fandoms. We try to keep everything running in a positive manner because there's far too much negativity on YouTube. And so we want to give you something nice to think about. And this is Throwback Thursday, so we'll talk about a classic movie that I think you should see. But first, we have some news to talk about, and that news is the new Planet of the Apes movie by Disney. So, let's jump right into it. Okay, so we got our first news about the new Disney reboot / sequel of the Planet of the Apes, because as you know, they now own the rights to Planet of the Apes, and they're going to continue it on from the Matt Reeves movies, which isn't a bad thing. While I will tell you all the time that the Batman movie was really dark, the Planet of the Apes movies being what I consider to be one of the definitive Matt Reeves movies. And if you haven't had a chance to see those yet, you really need to check them out. The whole Planet of the Apes thing that they had going on not too long ago was the most amazing. And to continue it on from that point excites me. And having Disney do this doesn't really disturb me as much as I know it might disturb other people. Now, let's break it down because there's some news to talk about here. They're going to be continuing on from the Matt Reeves era, but with a time jump and all new characters. I know, wait, Disney, what are you doing? You did this with Star Wars, and if you listen to a lot of people, they'll tell you that there's a big chunk of Star Wars fans that absolutely despise those movies. All the people that I've talked to on a personal level don't. And I have the feeling that as time progresses, we're going to see a similar thing happen with Planet of the Apes. There's going to be this camp that likes the Matt Reeves movies before Disney took over. But keep in mind, those were reboots. Those were direct reboots. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So, Disney's going to do this with a time jump, and it starts filming in Australia in August, on August 1st to be exact. And here's the thing, we have a title. It is called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I love it. I love that title. I love that concept because, they could have gone back when they did the whole reboots before. They could have gone back to that original set of films and just done Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, all of that. And they didn't go that route. Instead, you could almost treat all of these movies as if they are part of the same exact canon. And I don't know if Disney's movie's gonna change that or not, but I imagine you could still do that in some capacity. And I'm down for it. The Planet of the Apes changed drastically from the time of its conception on your movie screens to the time of the television show that we got, to the time of the cartoon, to the Mark Wahlberg movie, to the Matt Reeves movies. And it's been so drastically different every time that you can actually imagine that this world evolved from something. If you look past the haircuts and the outfits of the past, you could almost establish a timeline of your own. And that's one of the things I always found brilliant about the film. But here's the breakdown of what the new film is going to be about. This chimpanzee and this human are traveling together to save the chimpanzee's clan from a ruthless and mean leader of the ape army, of the ape people. And it's crazy because what the chimpanzee doesn't know is the human has a much more devious agenda than he even thinks. Because apparently the human's got some agenda of his own, and it may not coincide with the Planet of the Apes. It may not coincide with the apes at all. He could be looking to bring the humans back into power if they have lost that power. Or he could be looking to stop the Planet of the Apes from actually rising, because we got these movies and then, as we've watched them progress, but the humans are not completely dead in this whole Matt Reeves universe of Planet of the Apes. And they're not enslaved by the apes yet. So it's really crazy to look at this concept and say, wait, where are we going here? And what are we doing? And how is this going to work within the whole Planet of the Apes franchise? Because, like I said, you could take this entire timeline and really make it work. Now, that being said, let's jump into our review. Now, Planet of the Apes began in 1968 with Charlton Heston playing George Taylor and Ronnie McDowell playing the chimpanzee Cornelius. And they teamed up in this movie to actually help each other. They found out that the apes were wrong, that the humans were primitives, and it was a very interesting take because these astronauts crash land on a planet they think is far away. But in reality, somehow they have jumped through time and space itself to end up in a future version of their very own planet Earth. Or have they? Planet of the Apes kind of has this crazy view set of the planet and what would happen if apes evolved instead of man. Only what we find out is that man was in power at one point until something happened that allowed the apes to take over and run the planet as their own, breaking free of the confines of humanity. And this was 1968. This movie was so cool. So one thing to know about this movie, a bit of trivia, is there was in fact 3 endings to this film. And the favored one by Charlton Heston himself is the one they ultimately used. So when you're watching the film and you get to the end, Charlton Heston himself picked this ending as his favorite of the 3. Ronnie McDowell was an experienced actor by the time that this movie came out. And if you've never seen Ronnie McDowell in anything, you could do worse than to start with Planet of the Apes, because you can't even see his face underneath this makeup. And he performs this so brilliantly that it is beyond imagination. Now, he was experienced, and it was actually him who told the other actors in the makeup to kind of develop tics of their own, so that you could get the feel that these apes, in fact, had a few tics here and there, that their gestures and everything were very ape-like. It was actually him that came up with some of that stuff and told the actors to do that. And I find that pretty cool. This was actually one of the first films to have major merchandise attached to it. one of the very first films to incorporate the action figures. The Marvel comics did some stuff with it. A whole bunch of really cool merchandise came out. I mean, you had collectibles, you had card sets, you had records. You name it, this movie had it. And they were one of the very first movies to do this type of thing on a major, large scale. So that in itself is a little bit crazy to think about. This movie, of all movies, Planet of the Apes, doing this before all the superhero merchandise came about from all the different superhero movies, before Jurassic Park did this, all the way back when the very first Planet of the Apes movie came out, they knew they had a winner. Rod Serling actually said that he spent well over a year and 30 or 40 different drafts to adapt the original book of Planet of the Apes into a movie. And it was actually considered to be a spin-off movie of the Twilight Zone TV series. That in itself is a little bit trippy to think about, especially given how weird the movie Planet of the Apes is, and the ending we ultimately see does seem very much like a Twilight Zone movie. If you have never seen this movie before, I highly recommend you check it out. Written by the man who brought you the classic old version of the Twilight Zone, and still holds up today despite the really cheap looking makeup. So if that's something that appeals to you, you need to check it out. So definitely leave us a comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think about the news of the new Planet of the Apes movie, and what you think if you have ever seen the original Planet of the Apes movie. Also, just have a conversation with us. YouTube likes it when you have a conversation with us, and we like it too. Also, don't forget to share this video with all of your friends so they get the same great content you get. And make sure you're hitting that like button. YouTube loves it when you hit that like button, and of course, we always appreciate it, and it's free. And then also, Miko says we definitely need more subscribers, so make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video we do. And friends, no matter what planet you ever end up on, remember, fandom is family.